Hey guys, it's Sam, and in this tutorial we're going to be putting together our independent music CD artwork. So this is our first portfolio builders assignment. This is for our fundamentals class, and it's the project that's right after the Against the Clock book assignment music CD artwork. So previously you had to put together a CD artwork where the pieces were provided. And this one you have to find your own pieces and put it together. So this will be our first portfolio piece. So let me show you how to get started. So first, let's go ahead and open up Photoshop. So let's go down on our dock and click on Photoshop. I already had it open, so it pops right up. And then we're gonna go ahead and make this, it's gonna be 4.75 inches by 4.75 inches squared. Okay, so first what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to File, New, or Command or Control N. And this opens up this new document dialog box. So what we're going to do first is under preset details, under our name here where it says Untitled 1, I'm just going to highlight it and I'm going to put my name. So go ahead and put your name or your last name or something so that I know it's yours when you turn it in. Underscore, and then put independent underscore CD underscore artwork, just so we differentiate it from our previous assignment. And that way we know that this is our independent work. This is what's going to go in our portfolio. Under width, let's go ahead and put, well, before you put the width actually, let's go ahead and change it to inches. Make sure you do that first, and then go ahead and do 4.75 on the width and 4.75 on the height. Again, make sure inches is set. And resolution of 300 is fine. We could probably go down to 150, so if you want to, you could do 150, but 300 is good. And then I'm not going to change anything here. Again, once we're in the document, you can change all of these as you want. So go ahead and click Create. And that's going to give us a blank document. So I had you guys build it first at 4.75 by 4.75, which is our trim. So what we're going to do real quick is set up our guides right here. So I'm going to do Command A, Command or Control A, or go ahead and go to Select and All, and that gives you the marching ants or a selection around the whole 4.75 by 4.75 inch square. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the top ruler. If you don't have your rulers up, go ahead and click on View, and then make sure rulers is checked on, or you could do Command or Control R. So if you don't have it, it's going to look like this. To pop it up, go ahead and do Command or Control and then R, and that brings up your rulers. And then go ahead and drag a ruler down from up here, click on it and drag it down, and then once it snaps into that selection area at the top, let it go. So that gives you a ruler at the very top. And then go ahead and drag another one from the top down, drag this one all the way down to that bottom set of marching ants. And now we're going to go to the left hand side, the left hand ruler, and then drag to the right. Again, we're just repeating the steps. Let it snap there, and then go here and let it snap on the right hand side. And then let's go ahead and deselect that. So we could go select and deselect, or Command or Control D to deselect it. Once again, I would say try to get used to using the quick commands. It just makes you more proficient and faster. And you know, when it comes to graphic design, time is money. So I don't expect you guys to know all these, but you know, it's a good practice, good use to, you know, get in the habit of using them. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we have to account for the bleed on this document. So we're gonna add 1/8 of an inch on all 4 sides. So if you add 1/8 of an inch here and 1/8 of an inch here, that gives you 0.25 inches. So if you do the 4.75 plus the 0.25 inches, it gives you a full 5 inches that this document size is going to be. But remember, our trim, our actual artwork is going to trim at 4.75. So in order to add that now, we could go to Image and we go to Canvas Size. And then what we want to do is change our width and our height to 5 inches. So 5, and then our height, go to 5. And then our canvas extension color doesn't matter, but since we have white, I'm gonna keep mine at white. Again, it doesn't matter, it's just going to be your background color. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So now you see what it did there is it added that 0.25 inches going from 4.75 to 5. It added that all the way around, so that accounts for the 1/8 of an inch here, an 1/8 of an inch here, top and bottom as well. Okay, so now that's our trim, and then we're going to need our live guides, which are going to be an 1/8 of an inch inside of our trim, and that is to keep any important information away from the trim edge. So a real quick way to do this, I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in. So I could do Command or Control plus to zoom in, and then I'm going to hold my space bar and click and drag to the top left. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on under our ellipse tool right here, actually click and hold, and we'll have our rectangle tool. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure the fill is any color you want. I'm going to make it red, and I'm going to make sure I have no stroke, so take that down to 0. And then I'm just going to click randomly somewhere around this area, click once, and then you should get this create rectangle dialog box comes up. And under width and height, I'm gonna change that to 0.125. Make sure you type in inches or IN, and that way it reads it. It'll translate it as well. So see, it rounds it up, but it's, you know, it's fine. 0.125 inches. Make sure all these corners are set to 0, and then go ahead and click OK. So that gives us our 1/8 of an inch rectangle, or square actually. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and click on my move tool again. To access it real quick, click on V as in Victor, and that took me to my move tool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it up till it snaps here, and I'm going to use this as a guide to add my guides to the inside, which is going to be my live guide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure my rectangle is selected in my layers panel right here, and you can tell because it's highlighted, and I'm going to do Command or Control T. So what that does it selects it, and it's in transform mode. But the reason why I want it here is because I want to use that selection, the outside areas, to bring in guides again. So what I'm going to do is let's go to the top and bring a guide down, and just wait for it to snap. It'll snap along the bottom, and then drag a guide from the left to the right. And once it snaps on the right hand side, we have both our top and our left guides created. So I'm gonna hit return. So now I'm gonna do Command or Control 0 so I could zoom out and view everything. Make sure my rectangle is selected again, and I'm gonna just click and drag it down to the bottom right. And we're gonna do the same thing essentially down here. Take care of the right guide right here, and the top and the bottom one, which is gonna be on the top of the square actually. So I'm gonna zoom in. So another way that I could zoom is hold Z, and then just click and drag to the right, and that'll zoom me in right to where that rectangle or that square is. Click on my move tool so I don't move it. Make sure my rectangle is selected, and again do Command or Control T, and then I'm going to drag a guide from the top down, and make sure this one sets on the top of it, and then drag a guide from the left to the right, and that is it. Hit return or enter, and now we could just go ahead and trash our guide. So make sure our rectangle is selected, and then go ahead and click on the little trash can icon to delete it. It's going to ask you if you're sure if you want to delete it. Go ahead and click yes, and then I'm gonna go ahead and do Command 0 again, or Control 0, and that way it zooms out. So now you can see we have essentially our three guides, 3 areas. So at the very far edge is our bleed. The next line in, the next guide in, is our trim. So this is where our artwork is actually going to end once it's printed and cut out. And then the next guides within it's going to be our live. So we want any faces, any titles, any important information within this guide. And once again, the bleed is just extra artwork that it's going to get trimmed off. So especially important that you don't have any information that you want to keep outside of that. That's just kind of like extra fluff for the printer, just so you don't have white lines possibly. Okay, so now that we have our document set up, it's time to start looking for photos. So I'm winging this, I'm just doing it right off the back. So let's go ahead and look for some images. Think of, you know, if you want to do the Beatles, just, you know, go down the rabbit hole and think of images that you want to put in there, whether it's, you know, the artist, some musical instruments, any sort of graphics. I would say try to use, you know, a good amount of images. That way you get familiar with masking, get familiar with compositing, laying different elements out. For the sake of the project, you know, try not to just use 3 images. So I don't have a required set number of images, but the more you use, the better. Like I said, again, this is practice. This is to show what you could do. So the more, the better. So let's go ahead and do a quick search. I'm gonna go ahead and do Elvis Presley. So I'm gonna first find some images. So go to Google, type in Elvis Presley, go to images, and let's see. I like this one because he has an orange shirt. Not that it matters. We could always change that. It is Photoshop after all. So let's go ahead and click on it. And we see that's a fairly good size image. Anything over like 1,000 by 1,000 roughly, it's a good size. You just have to think about, you know, if this is going to take up most of my artboard, then it's fine if it's big. If this was really small, let's say 200 by 200, you know, we can't necessarily make it bigger without losing quality. So if you find an image that you want to use and it's small, keep in mind it might be, you know, something that takes up very little space here. So I'm going to go ahead and download it. So once you're right here, you could go ahead and right click on the image after selecting it, and then go to open image in a new tab. And now you see it's a good quality image. I'm going to right click it and go to save image as. And I'm going to go ahead and put it on, I already set up this folder. You know, you should already have your work folder set up. So I'm going to put it in there. So I'm going to go to desktop, find my folder. I have so many Sam Limon or Sam folders, but this is my working one. And then I'm going to go ahead and save it. One thing that I should do now is I don't have anything in this folder. So I should right click over here within it, and then I'm gonna click on new folder, and then I'm gonna rename this Independent CD Artwork. Any name, just so that you know what it is and you could find it later. And then I'm gonna go ahead and drag this file in here. Now if you notice, and this is gonna happen a lot now, where Google Images are stored in this WebP format, and unfortunately Photoshop does not read that. So let me just go ahead and open this. If I try to drag this in, see it says Photoshop could not place the Elvis Presley .webp file because no browser or file format can open this file. Luckily for us, there is a workaround. So if you download images, hopefully you get lucky and you get the JPEGs, and then you should be able to open these in Photoshop. If you do not, there's a little workaround, and I'm gonna show you guys that. So what you want to do is click on a new tab, and then go to cloudconvert.com. And this is a totally free website, and this allows you to convert that format into a JPEG. I'm pretty sure down the line Photoshop is going to start accepting that, but this is pretty new, so it's just too new for that. So we're gonna, it's just a little workaround. It adds a little extra work, but it's fine. It'll work fine. So what you want to do is, let's see, click on select file, the big red button, hard to miss, and then go ahead and find the photo that you want to change the format. So that's going to be this one. Go ahead and open it, and then it tells you what do you want to convert it to. So I'm going to click on JPEG, and then simply just convert. Give it a second to do its thing, to process, and then it gives you the JPEG, and then go ahead and click on download. So now if you download it, it's going to go into your downloads folder. I'm going to go ahead and close this, go down to my downloads folder, open downloads, and it is right here. So I'm going to now drag this one just to stay organized, drag that out, and then drag it into my working folder. And I have both. I have the habit of saving everything, but if you're done with something and you're not going to use it, you could erase this .webp file. But again, I always like to save originals, just because in the industry you never know, you might have to come back to an original file, and the last thing you want to do is be looking for it. For our purposes, it's not that big of a deal, but for sure get in the habit of saving everything. It does take up more storage, but at the end of the day, it could be a lifesaver. Okay, so now that we transformed that, let's look for other images. So let's go ahead and close this one. Let's see, what's another thing that's that we associate with Elvis? Something for a background. Let's say we could do, his home, Graceland. Elvis Presley, Graceland. Maybe we could do something there, or let's see, or how about Vegas? Las Vegas is nice and colorful with all the lights. Another thing, if you want to find an image that is a big size, let's go ahead and what you could do here, go to tools and then go to size and then click on large, and that's going to filter out any small images. So anything that you click on now should be fairly large. So I always like these top views of Vegas, so I'm going to go ahead and click on that one. Now you see this one's 1300 by 700. That's pretty big, pretty close. So I'm going to again right click and then open image in a new tab. This gets it by itself. And then I'm going to right click, save image as, and let's go ahead and put it with our other file. Real quickly, it doesn't give me the extension yet. Let's just go ahead and save it. And let's close it. Let me go ahead and open this, and hey, what do you know? It's a JPEG, so we got saved there. Hit the spacebar real quick. Looks good. Hit the spacebar again. That's the wonderful thing about Macs. You could click on something and hit the spacebar, and it pops up a preview, and then click on the spacebar again to hide it. Okay, so now we have that. Let's see another thing. Let's add, maybe we could add a cool old style microphone. So let's search for a microphone. And let's see if we could find a nice one. Microphone old. And again, let's go ahead and search for a high quality one. So let's go to tools, size, large. And preferably one with the stand. Let's see how this one is. Yeah, this one looks pretty good. And it has a white background. So, I mean, we're not going to use much of it, but this should be enough. So again, I'm going to right click and then open image in a new tab. You get it by itself, and then we could preview it. And that actually looks like vector art. So you could tell it looks a little fake. They try to get it a little close. So I'm going to be picky right here, and I'm going to look for an actual Chrome one, not this vector art. It does look pretty cool though, but you could kind of tell that it's not a real one. Let's see. That one does not look too bad. Let's see if we could find something better. And this is going to be part of the challenge. You know, you're thinking about things, and you got to put stuff together. You know, it's part of it. It's part of it. Just finding the right images. You know what? For the sake of time, let's just go ahead and download the one I originally had. It's going to be kind of small, so you're not going to notice too much anyway. So again, right click and then go to save image as. We should be in our folder. Let's go ahead and save it. And let's go to our Finder. And I actually have several of these pages open, so let's close that one. I'm just making sure it's a JPEG, which it is. Okay, we are good. Let me put this over here just so I could get back to it a little quicker. Let's see what else we could do. Let me also show you guys these other sites. Right now what we're doing is just finding images off of Google. Technically you should not be doing this if you're using this to make money. For our purposes, for school, for classwork, it's perfectly okay as long as you're not making money off of it. This is just you're going to be showing what you could do. But if you are required to do a job that is for pay, you could go to there's a wide number of pages that you could find. You know, images that are free for commercial purposes. One of these is unsplash.com. So Unsplash, and it says free high resolution photos. So anything that you find on here is free to use. If you look right here, read more about the Unsplash license. I click on that. So the license says Unsplash photos are made to be used freely. Our licenses reflect that all photos can be downloaded and used for free for commercial and non-commercial purposes, and no permission needed. What you cannot do is you cannot sell the photos without significant modification, and you cannot compile photos from Unsplash to replicate a similar or competing service. So the good thing is right here is you could use them for commercial and non-commercial purposes. So let me go back and you could find, you know, a lot of great things here. Let's say, for example, you wanted to find, let's see that microphone, see if they have it. Sometimes they have things, sometimes they don't. And see, they have these really cool images of microphones. And if I just click it, you could tell it's a large image and you could just download it for free. You know, so they have a wide number of images. Another one is pixabay.com. So that's another one that has stunning free images in royalty-free stock. This is another one, and there's also pexels.com. So these are actually two of my favorites are this one, Pexels and Unsplash. And then if you want to go to the paid sites, you could do that. As a student, you know, it's kind of not worth it. But once you are doing work commercially, then you'd probably, you know, charge your clients if you're going to use photos from here. One of the big ones is Shutterstock. And it's the same thing, except, you know, you could set up an account, you could pay monthly, you could download a certain number of images. If you download them one by one, you know, it's like a $10 fee roughly per image. So think of that, it gets pretty pricey, you know, if you're going to use 5 images directly from here. But for now, stick to these free ones. And the one thing I wanted to look for was lights, like little glowing things, kind of like this background right here. So that one is called the bokeh effect. And let's just look for a pretty cool one. Let's see. Some neat ones. Let's get this one. I'll download this one. And then open up my downloads folder. And let's take that one in. So that's a good number of images for now. And let's go ahead and close these. So we only had to convert one. If you have to convert more, that's fine. You know how to convert these. And now let's go ahead and go into Photoshop, and we're going to drag all of these in. All of them except our .webp photo. So let's go ahead and go to File, Open. And let's go ahead and find our folder, our working folder, and then our project folder within it. So let's see, it's going to be in our desktop. San Limon, Independent CD Artwork. And see, it's even grayed out, so it doesn't let us choose it. So let's just go ahead and select all of these. I'm just clicking and dragging, or you could click on one and hold Shift and click on the last one. It's going to do all of them. Or you could click on one, and if you hold Command or Control and then just click on each one you want. Let's say you do not want this one, then you could unclick it. Let's select all those, and then I'm going to go ahead and click Open. And now Photoshop opened all of them. So it was a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 photos. So, and then we have our document, so that's 5. So let's go to Window, Arrange, and let's do tile all vertically. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drag all of these into our working document. So make sure I'm on my move tool, and then I'm going to click on this background image and drag it in here, let it go, so that placed it in there. Now I can close this one. I'm going to bring in that bokeh effect. Sometimes you have to click twice, click and drag, that brings it in. Close that one. Bring in our buddy Elvis Presley, close this one, and then let's bring in our mic. Actually, what happens is, since this one was selected, I can't just click and drag here. I have to click first over here, and then I could select and drag it, and then close this one. So now you see in our layers, we have all of these different layers. So let's go ahead and turn them off. If you don't see your layers like mine, you could click on the little hamburger icon, this little options tab right here, and then go to panel options, and then you could select how you want to see the thumbnails on this. So if you want none, it's gonna get rid of the icon, so click OK, and it just tells you what the layers are. This is obviously not helpful unless you had these renamed. So I'm gonna go ahead and go back to that little hamburger tab, go to panel options, and I'm going to click on this one so I don't take up too much space. So then I'm going to rename these according to what they are. So layer 4, I'm going to double click on that layer, and I'm going to name it mic. So what I did right now is just turn these off, just so they're visually not, bugging me. I'm going to rename layer 3 to Elvis. Layer 2, I'm going to name it lights. And layer 1, I'm going to rename Vegas or background. I'm going to put Vegas. Okay, so now first, what I want to do is I want to mask out Elvis. So I'm going to turn Elvis on. Turn his layer on, and then make sure I'm on my move tool, and then I'm gonna drag it to the right. I was not selected on it, so that's why I wasn't moving it. I was actually moving this Vegas one. So now that I'm selected, I could move him around. So one thing that I notice is he's a little too big right here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do Command or Control T, or I could go to Edit and Transform, Free Transform, Command T, there it is. And I'm gonna zoom out a little, so Command or Control minus a couple times. And then I'm just gonna click on a corner and drag it in just to where I could see the top of his head, and then I'm gonna hit return or enter. And then I don't want to see the guides right now. I'm gonna turn them off for this purpose. I don't need them just yet. So I could do view and then go to show and then turn off guides, or the quick command is command semicolon. So I could do command or control semicolon, and that turns them off or turns them on. So I'm going to turn them off for now, and then I'm going to zoom in and then go ahead and recall to the different ways of masking and find out a way that works for you. So I'm going to just go ahead and do the magnetic lasso tool. So it's under here. If I just click and hold under the lasso tool, I could find the magnetic lasso tool. And then I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. I always find it easier to work best zoomed in. You know, it's hard to work with all the little details when you're far away. So that's the good thing about this. So do Command plus. And I'm going to start over here, and I'm just going to click, and I'm going to drag slightly. And I'm not clicking here. I'm just holding. Once I get to a point where I want to move, I hold the space bar, and then I click and drag. Let go of the mouse, and then I let go of the space bar, and then it goes back into my masking tool here, or into my selection tool. Hold space and then move again. When I get to a corner here, I usually like to click to add the point where I want it, and then I just keep going. Click here. Now hair could sometimes be a little tricky to mask, but right now we're just learning the basics. So we're just gonna do, you know, if you run into a situation where you have hair like this, just do the best you could right here, rough it out, and you could either do the refine the selection, or when you go up to select and mask, if you recall, like what we did on our music CD artwork, and you could fine tune it that way. And there's a bunch of other ways, you know, there's a lot of tutorials. If you need something specific, ask me and I could show you how to mask you know, hair that's like all over the place. That's a tough one, but it can be done. This is not too bad. Take your time with this. You know, we want to get it as close as possible. We want to make it look as professional as possible. And then I'm just going to click around over here just to stay away from that. Drag over here and connect it at the end. Once you see that little circle by the little by the icon next to our cursor, go ahead and click it, and that makes a selection. Now I'm gonna go ahead and zoom out, so I do Command or Control 0. And then with Elvis selected, with the layer selected, I'm gonna click on here to make a mask. So it adds a layer mask, and there's Elvis masked out. Right now we're looking at the white background because I have this white background. If I turn it off, I get that checkerboard pattern, and you can see that, you know, there's no pixels out here. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave it off for now. That's fine. So now one thing you notice is I have his arm cropped off right here and right here. So that looks a little funny. That would look a little funny. You know, you could clone, you could do all this work to get, you know, to make this up, but you know, that's a little bit more advanced. So for now, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make sure I'm on my move tool, and I'm gonna position him in a place where we could crop that, you know, things like that off. So at this point, maybe I want to make him a little bit bigger, you know, to take up more space. So I'm gonna do Command or Control T and drag him up right here. After all, he's the most prominent, you know, piece of art or element in our composition. So let's make his face pretty big and hit return. So now we have Elvis masked out. So now let's go ahead and turn on our Vegas image, and let's go ahead and make this one bigger too. So let's do, so it takes up a lot of space. So I'm gonna do Command T or Control T and then drag this up as well. And this is part of where we could, you know, start arranging our elements. What do we want to show? Obviously, if you get too far over here, you're missing this area. You know, I kind of wanted to get, you know, that Bally's in there, but you know, maybe that's not gonna work unless I do that here. Then I have some colors matching right here with the orange. Or actually, this looks pretty cool here. You know, the tower there, and what is it, the Bellagio water show here. So yeah, that looks pretty cool there. So let's go ahead and hit return. Okay, so now I'm gonna turn on the mic, select it, and then on this one, it might be easier to mask out the white by doing the magic, what is it, the magic wand. So it's under the object selection tool, magic wand tool, and let's just go ahead and try it out. So let's go ahead and click on the white and then click on the layer mask. And actually what it did is it inversed it, so it hid the microphone and it's showing the white. So what we could do is make sure we're selected on our layer mask right here, and then go to select and then click on inverse. It doesn't let me actually. So let's go ahead and do Command or Control I, and that does the inverse of it. So it's gonna show the mic and hide all the white around it. Now if we zoom in a little, Command plus, you know, like I said, we could tell this is fake, but yeah, that's okay. And then let's go ahead and click on this white strip right here. And then if you click on your brush now, click on your brush tool. Let's go ahead and make it a little bit bigger. So right here where I have 7, you're gonna have a certain set number. I'm gonna drag it up. Click some over here. Make sure I have black. If I don't have black, select it right here. Double click on this color and click and drag to the bottom left. And now if I just click and drag here, it's gonna paint that black. Make sure I'm on my layer mask, not over here on my actual image, because if I was here, I'm gonna be painting. I would be painting black there, which I don't want to. You can't see it now because it's already masked out. And sometimes if it doesn't work, let me undo it. Make sure your blending mode is set to normal and your opacity is at 100%. And make sure that your color is black again. Make sure you are on your mask. If you're not on your mask, see, it's going to paint black. So you could always do Command or Control Z to undo. Click on your layer mask, and if you're painting with black, remember you are hiding, so we're hiding that white. And then go ahead and deselect it, so Command or Control D, or select and deselect. Okay, so let's zoom out, Command minus. We're on our mic, let's click on our move tool, or click on V, and then let's move it down here. I think that looks pretty good. Maybe a little lower so we don't, so we don't bump up on his chin. Give it a little space. So something like that. And now what I want to do with the lights, this is just something I want to try out. So let's go ahead and zoom out and let's make that a little smaller. So I'm going to do Command or Control T. Make sure my lights are selected. And I'm gonna click on the H and drag it down, or either one, the height or the width. And let's see if we could get like a little cool effect. See, even that looks pretty cool. Hit return. And then what I could do is I could change the blending mode from normal to try different ones. So multiply. See if there's anything you like, That looks pretty cool. See screen. So see if there's something you like from here. I kind of like screen. Let me move it around. See if there's, something else I like. I kind of like these up here, It makes him pop a little bit more because, you have a little bit lighter back here. So let me turn that off and on. So that just gives it a cool effect. So now what we could do is, we could title this now that we have a few different elements. And actually, before we get to the title, one thing I'm noticing is this is very warm. Him, the background, and the microphone just looks a little bland. So I could always add some color to the microphone. This is kind of a little bit advanced, but if you follow along, you should be able to get this. So we could add an adjustment layer, or actually, first I'm going to show you guys how to do it the destructive way, which is not the recommended way, but it would be like a permanent change. And then I'll go ahead and show you the non-destructive way, which is slightly more advanced, but if you follow along, you'll get it. And it means you could come back and change things down the line. So let's go ahead and zoom into the mic. Make sure I'm selected on it. And let's go ahead and go to Image, Adjustments, and click on Curves. So now I could do, let's say I go into my red channel up here. And see if I increase the red. See how it starts getting red. And if I click OK, that's basically a permanent change. I cannot do anything, like the pixels are actually changed to red. So that's not the recommended way. So I'm going to go ahead and do Command or Control Z to undo it. So instead of going to Image and Adjustments and doing it that way, I'm going to do an adjustment layer. So it's a layer that creates that change to the mic. So I'm going to click on this little sign that almost looks like a yin yang. So see, it says create new fill or adjustment layer. So click on that and then scroll down to curves. So now we have the same curves, except we have it as a layer. So now if I go to my red, and I could do the same thing and see how it starts making it red. The only thing is it's affecting everything. If I zoom out, let me Command Z. See if I bring that up from the center, it starts making everything red. And that's fine. So what we want to do is we want to clip this curves adjustment layer down to the microphone. So if you right click on it somewhere right here and go to create clipping mask, see how that like indents it and it creates a little arrow that points down to the mic. So this is only affecting the mic. So if I turn that off and on, You could see how it turns it off and on the actual mic. So I'm zooming in. So now the whole purpose of this was I wanted to get a little warm so it kind of matches the tone. So we added some red, and now if you go to the blue, let's subtract some blue. So if you subtract some blue, it's going to increase some yellow, and that gives it that little bit of a orange cast. So maybe that was too much red, so I'm gonna go to red and I'm gonna bring that down just a little bit. It's starting to look brown. Let's mess with the green. If I bring that down, not too much. So if I bring it up, it kind of adds yellow. You want it somewhere in between. Now let's go ahead and add more red. Now if I zoom out, see how that kind of ties in a little better versus if I turn that off. And actually, now's a good time. Let's go ahead and click on our mic, and I'm just nitpicking right now. I'm gonna do Command or Control T, and I'm gonna resize it. I feel like it's looking a little small. So maybe something like that. Hit return. So now our composition's looking pretty good. So now let's go ahead and I mean, we could either find some type depending on what you're doing. You could you know, you could find the title of your band, of your artist, you know, something that's already set. For example, if I go in and if I search for example, Chicago, like you could go in and download something that's official, or you could just make your own. So again, if you bring something like this in, just remember, bring something that's high quality. If it's in that WebP format, go ahead and go to that Cloud Convert website and convert it. Or you could just type it out, which is what we're gonna do here. So I'm gonna go back to Photoshop, and then I'm gonna make a new layer by clicking on the type tool, horizontal type tool. And then I'm gonna click up here, and I'm just gonna type in Elvis. And so it's there, it's just not showing. So I'm gonna click on my move tool, and I'm gonna drag it up. See how I was actually on my microphone layer, so it, wherever you're at, and if you do something new, if you create a new layer, it's gonna do it right above it. So it created it here. So now it is actually clipped onto the mic as well. So if I move it down here, see how it starts showing up there, but it's only clipping to the microphone. So that's what happened there. So what I want to do is drag it outside and make sure my little blue line is showing right there. And then see how it's still clipping to, basically it follows this one and it goes into the mic. We don't want it there, so right click, and maybe they're changing things, but usually it says release clipping path. So what we could do is we could use a shortcut key. So if you hold Option or Alt, and if you put your cursor right in between these two, layers, and you see that little icon, click it, and then it releases it. On the same token, instead of if you wanted to clip this or any layer back to another layer, so instead of right clicking and then clipping the mask, you could just hold Option or Alt and put your cursor right in between them, and you could clip it again. So let's go ahead and unclip it. So now Elvis sits by itself. So let's go ahead and click on our type tool, or click on T. I'm gonna double click it, and I'm just gonna choose another font, or you know what, maybe Avenir is a good one, but I don't want oblique, I want black. And I'm gonna change the color to, well, let's leave it white for now. Let's see where it looks good. Maybe up here. This is a good time to turn on our guides. So if you do Command or Control and then semicolon, that turns on our guides. And let's zoom in. So we know that the title of Elvis has to be underneath this first set of guides. That's our important information. So let's go ahead and make it a little bigger. So I do Command T or Control T, and I could scale it up and then hit return. Or I could, if I'm on my type tool, click on it, and then I could click on up here in our control bar and then click and drag to the right. Or I could do it in our properties panel right here as well. Let's just, to make it an even number, I'm gonna go 100, hit return. And then let's bring it down here. I'm starting to feel it's a little too big. Let's do Command T again. And let's bring it down to 90%. Hit return twice. And now, since we're leaving this white, I'm gonna leave it white. I wanna add like a little drop shadow just to make it pop. You see how it does pop behind, or where it has the hair behind, but over here, it starts getting a little, it starts getting a little hard to read. So what you could do is you could double click here, and that opens up this layer style dialog box. And we could click on drop shadow. Make sure you don't click on the little check box. Click on drop shadow. And then just mess with all the settings here. So I'm gonna do multiply. I'm gonna click on, we have purple, so let's go ahead and sample a like dark purple. If not, you could go ahead and choose whatever purple you want. Click OK. Let me increase the distance a bit, increase the spread a bit, and increase the size. So see how that makes it a little more legible. And I'm gonna bring the opacity back just a little bit so it's not so pronounced. And then now if I wanted to add like a bevel and emboss, go ahead and click on bevel and emboss. I could zoom in a little bit just so I could see where I'm at. And let's increase the size. We could do an inner bevel. So you can see that our highlights are blue right here and my shadows are purple. So maybe I want to do my shadows like an orange color, just because I have orange in there. Maybe something not so pronounced, but something like that. And just for fun, let's change our highlights to like a purple. They're not really showing up right now. It just depends on which settings you have. So yeah, so just mess with these and see if there's something you like. The goal with all of these, especially like bevel and emboss, is you want to use them to a minimum. You don't want to make it pronounced, because it's like, then it's obvious it's Photoshop. I mean, everybody knows, but you want to kind of just use things very subtly. And let me zoom out. Yeah, I kind of like the deep purple actually, as a little drop shot, as a little the embossing. And I'm gonna go ahead and call that done. So if this is my final piece, go ahead and make sure all your masking is correct. Like I said, try to bring more elements. I'm just showing you the basics. Try to play around with the different selection styles to do masks and things like that. Once again, if you have any questions, ask me. Once you're done with it, go ahead and save it. So I'm gonna do File, Save. So that saves my actual. And actually, we should have been saving this whole time. So my apologies for not reminding you, but get in the habit of saving often. And then we just want to save it here. We had already set up our name, so let's go ahead and save it. And then what we want to do is go to File, Save As. This is what you're going to turn in. So File Save saves your Photoshop file, which is in here. And then you're going to save it as a JPEG. Once you are completely done, save it. And yeah, make sure it's at maximum. It's not going to be too big, 1.6 megabytes. That's fine. Go ahead and click OK. And you could go ahead and close it. So now go ahead and go into your folder and see how we have our Photoshop document, and then we have our JPEG. So the JPEG is what you're going to turn in, and I'll give you guys instructions on how to turn this in for a grade. So once again, there's a preview. Again, try to use a lot more elements, try to get familiar. If you want to, practice more, be a little more advanced, you could change the color, you could change, let's say, the lips. Let's say it's a female artist or whoever. If you want to change, if you want to add lipstick, if you want to change eye color, if you want to paint in some eyeshadow, things like that, feel free to ask me and I'll help you guys out. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you on the next tutorial.